If you like to drive around and talk about the latest happenings, this is the channel you need. So subscribe and follow Carmentary.
All right, folks, it is time for another episode of Carmentary, the show where I drive in my car and talk about something that interests me at the moment. Today I'm heading out to Niseko again. It's a little late in the afternoon, going out for a meeting and also to probably shoot some video at Hirafu, the big resort there, at the night riding. But today's topic is about, well, snowboarding. Snowboard boot design, snowboard design, and snow surfing, and how that all kind of comes together in a nice package. The reason I'm talking about this, and some of you may have caught on if you watch a lot of the vlogs and see what I'm doing here on YouTube all the time, I've been filming with Mr. Tamai Taro, the founder of, hold on, ambulance. The founder of Genten Stick, the snow surf board company, and his wife, Makio, and also one of their riders from the Genten family, Osamu Okada, I believe is his full name, but he's called Omu. The video I actually filmed with him, the vlog I put up on YouTube, is now like one of my most popular videos. So obviously there's a real interest in the snow surf style, the riding style, the equipment they use. I get a lot of comments and questions, people asking things. So recently I was filming with Mr. Tamai, and we did a long interview for this series of videos I'm making about the boots that he collaborated on with K2. They're called the K2 TT Snowsurfer. And I guess this will be now, next year will be the 4th year that they've produced these boots. And their concept, if you want to really boil it down into one word, one sentence, is a soft, flexing, high-end snowboard boot. And I'd known about these boots, and I'd actually wanted a pair for a while, but I was riding other boots. I was riding DC boots. And this year, I was asked to make a series of short 1-minute movies. There's going to be 4 in total. And one is featuring Makio, Omu, Tamai, and then also another writer called Waji and Ken. So there's going to be 4 of these little movies. They're about the boots. It's like a little promotional thing. And I bought a pair of the boots myself, because I thought, I should be riding the boots and testing them if I'm going to be filming them. And I bought them, and right away I was like, wow, this is by far the best snowboard boot that I have ever ridden in. And I've been riding in snowboard boots since the very first snowboard boot. And even before that, I started snowboarding. I bought a pair of Sorels, which is what everybody did back in the mid-'80s, and I stuck a ski boot liner inside of it, and the ski boot liner, the only one I could get, was a rear entry ski boot. So you can't take off that little piece on the back, it's only like the front. Or somehow I stuck it all in there, and I remember duct taping it, which is what everybody did at the time. You sort of duct taped up your boots so that you had some kind of stiffness. And then you went riding, and at the end of the day, you would cut the duct tape, and you would just keep doing that all season. So that's how I started on snowboard boots. I think the first pair of real snowboard boots I got were, I think they were Burton's. And, it's been 30 years of different snowboard boots. Mostly Burton boots. I rode Northwave. I rode, what else did I ride? Well, DC, as I mentioned, 32. At the time, I really liked those 32 snowboard boots. So a variety of different boots. I always had issues with boots, and my left foot is a half size larger than my right foot. My feet are quite big. It's hard to get size 12 boots and up in Japan, so I was in general having to ride like tighter boots. I also rode Nike boots, by the way, for a little while, for one season. They were tight too. They were narrow. So that's my experience with boots. I bought the K2 TT Snowsurfer boots. Immediately, wow! Like, why didn't I buy these 3 years ago when they first came out? That was my first initial reaction. So I just want you to know my personal opinion. I won't talk too much about my opinion, because what Tamai-san and I talked about in the interview was quite interesting. It was all in Japanese. I don't know if it will ever come out with really good subtitles. Maybe. But I'll try to talk a little bit about his concept and translate it here. So, 20 years he's been making snowboards under the Gen-10 stick name. And he said in the interview that was really important for him. The first thing was to make boards that he wanted to ride, and boards that he thought were what snow surfing and snowboarding should be. And the next step now was to make boots, which he considers the second most important item in the experience, which I think everybody can agree on. Binding's also very important, but not quite as important as boots. Obviously, you want a good pair of bindings. They should be the right thing, but the boot is the closest thing to your skin in the whole package. But obviously, the board is what you're riding. You can have a crappy pair of boots, really good board, and you'd be better off than a really good pair of boots with a crappy board. I think that's what he's trying to say. So now he has collaborated with K2, made these boots. They're a soft flexing high-end boot. What does that mean? We talked about that a lot. And basically, you can buy low-end boots, which are like generally the boots at the end of the rack, right? Or at the beginning of the rack, where the first-time customer, the person who comes in doesn't want to spend a lot of money on a whole snowboard setup. And those boots are in general softer flexing. The reason they're softer flexing is not that they're designed for an amateur rider in a way, but that they use cheaper or inferior materials. So you end up with like a softer kind of boot. And I guess, it's because it's maybe aimed for a more beginner rider. As people progress and people get better, the thinking up until now has been, hey, they're going to be going faster, they're going to be doing big jumps, they're going to be whatever, going to Alaska. These people need a really stiff, high-end boot. So the word high-end came to equal stiff. And that was a problem I always had with it too. I would buy boots, and immediately I would get my razor, my cutter, out of my toolkit and like start cutting the stitching on the flex points at the ankle. Otherwise, I'm like a robot. You're like, you can't bend your knees. It's like you've put on a cast. It's like, I haven't broken my leg yet. I want to bend my knees and get down in there. But stiff boots basically keep you standing up straight. And that's something that Mr. Tamai also talked about, was the philosophy that developed over the years from the top players in the game, the top riders, is this concept of a triangle, with the board being on the bottom, your feet being the two triangle points, and your hips being the top of the triangle. And you want to keep this triangle, rock solid at all times. If the triangle starts bending and breaking, then you have trouble. And this is definitely one way of riding, and in certain disciplines within snowboarding, it's probably really important. For someone who just wants to go super fast, or maybe you're doing really big jumps and you land slightly backwards. That's where you want that triangle to respond and keep you level and on top of the board instead of crushing under the G-forces that are exerted there. So I understand that philosophy, but what's happened now is we have a whole new group of people, and it's a really big community now that doesn't do huge airs, doesn't ride half pipe, doesn't do like giant slalom racing, doesn't even go very fast down the hill. It's people that want to carve that want to just cruise around and free ride, go into banks and different natural terrain and gullies. And that's the kind of area where you have to be really flexible and really soft in your physical movement. And if your boots are rock solid like a ski boot, it makes it really difficult. So, his whole concept was to not only make a soft flexing boot, but to have it be really high end, using really good materials that are going to stand the test of time. It's going to have a good hold, it's going to fit really good, it's going to be warm, it's going to last a long time. So those are the key points. Like if you went and bought a low-end soft boot and you thought, oh, this flex is good, why not? It's only $200 rather than the $700 K2 TT boot. Problem is those low-end boots, they're made with the cheap materials. They're going to fall apart very quickly, and that soft flex might be good for the first week, but then 2 months into your season, it's like a slipper. It's not a soft flexing boot anymore, it's a slipper. So, the concept was there to make a high-end, soft flexing boot for people who wanted to really use their whole body to be soft and flowing with the terrain. I love that concept. I think this, well, we're already seeing a huge revolution in snowboarding with this whole snow surfing movement. I think people get wrapped up in the words too much. You know, some people snow surfing, you know, they don't want to use the word. I think it's a great word. I have nothing against it. But I think, you know, haters will hate. There's kids out there who think, you know, snow surfing is for old men and weaklings or something or whatever. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is, you have a huge population of people who snowboard, and the majority of them will never go into a half pipe, will never go down a race course, will never go to Alaska, will never go cadboarding. They're just going to the resort. They want to basically surf on the snow. And a lot of them are like me, who can't surf. Like, I will not claim, I've stood up on a surfboard a few times throughout my life. That's about it. I will never say I can surf or I'm a surfer. But I want to surf on the snow because it's easier than surfing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great, you know. Surfing is hard, man. You gotta go to the ocean. You gotta get beat down by waves. You gotta be able to swim strong. You gotta have like all this upper body strength. You gotta have all these things before you can even get up on the board. Snowboarding, you just get on buy your lift ticket and you're there. That's it. The only problem with snowboarding is that, excuse me folks, talked so much I had to change my battery. Alright, we're back now. Kind of forget where I was. Snow surfing revolution. I think we're seeing now 20 years of Genten and other brands in Japan like Field Earth, Moss. There's a whole bunch of other little brands that are making really unique shapes. So that whole movement of creating, you know, board shapes that are built for powder and really natural terrain and really flowing with the terrain and maybe not going like crazy fast. And now Tamai-san has taken it to the next level with this boot. And man, this for me is like the turning point. Like just having the boards, okay, great. That's what you need. You need that base. Now you put on a boot that's really made for that. It really allows you to get into those positions and, you know, carve and flow and really feel the terrain. Oh, I think this is gonna open up it's gonna open things up to a whole new group of people. I hope that people can discover the product and actually take the time to try it and, you know, buy a pair. If you're gonna, I think, as he said, it's the second most important item. I would almost say go buy the boots first. If you're really wanting to get into that kind of style of riding, and you're out to buy a good powder board, man, consider getting the boots at least at the same time. I know they're expensive, but it's going to be the best purchase you ever made. I'm telling you. Now, I know there's a lot of body builds out there. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of different types of feet, a lot of different, types of bones and whatnot. So there's going to be different folks out there. For the next year's model, I just saw the samples and we filmed with them last week. Mr. Tamai had actually taken out the inner lacing. I don't know what you call that. It's like a compression strap that most snowboard boots have. And I've been using them for years. You have the inner boot, and then there was like this little corset kind of thing that goes around the ankle, and you pull it and tighten down the rope, right? I'm sure there's an official word for that. I always hated that thing in any boots I used, and I would usually leave it really loose. I found that if you tighten that tight, that's what constricts your ankle. And number one, it restricts the blood flow going down to your toes. That's why you get cold toes. Some people, I never get cold toes. My feet are always so hot. Well, good for you. I get cold feet. I'm a cameraman. I stand around the snow for hours on end. My feet are freezing. I was always having to put on those little hot pads that are, I thought that was a gift from God. Since I got the boots, I haven't put those on once. They're so warm. So the boots are warm because of the design. And one of those was that corset around your ankle. He got rid of it. Took it out. It wasn't in there. And when I first put the boots on, I thought, oh, wow. There's no inner pull shoestring thing. Great. They've added it back for this next edition of the boots that will be sold next season. But it's an option. It's not in there from the start. It comes in a little bag. It's in the box. They have a little system that you can kind of like lock it in there to the outer and then put the inner in if you want it. I guess there's some people out there, he was saying that there was complaints. Some people have really skinny ankles and they want more of an ankle hold. Okay, yeah, maybe. Maybe the size of the boot is just wrong. I don't know. That was my thinking. But, I guess you can have really kind of big feet with a really skinny ankle, so you feel like you're not getting that hold around the ankle. But personally, I found the two BOA systems. There's one for the lower zone and one for the upper zone. That is plenty. That is absolutely plenty. But yeah, that's something to consider next year and something to remember. If you do buy those boots next season, they will come with that little anklet system. I would recommend using the boots without that first. And if you really feel there's a problem and your ankle is like coming up, your heel is lifting like ridiculous amounts, then you can put that in there. But I, again, recommend not squeezing it super tight. Just nicely. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. What else did we talk about? Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the gist of it. Basically, Tamai-san is very cautious and clever in the way he chooses his words. And I think he's not trying to say that all snowboard boot products and everything that has been up until this time is wrong. It's not at all what he's saying. He just wanted to create the option or the choice so that people could go out and buy a really stiff high-end boot, or they could buy a soft flexing high-end boot. And I think that's a great concept and a great way to look at it. And he also mentioned that obviously boot design now has been led by and progressed to where it is now by the top athletes, the top riders who are snowboarding around the world. They all go back to the different companies they work for and tell them, we want this, we want that. So if you have a guy who's a strong half-pipe rider, he's going to say, I need a stiffer flex on this so I can carve more when I go up the wall. Or you have a guy who rides extreme lines in Alaska, he's going to have another opinion. And so boot design has always been progressed in that direction, but it's kind of like making a Formula One race car. So there's a lot of amazing, incredible technology in a Formula One race car, but we don't all drive Formula One race cars on the roads. But there's a lot of design things that happen and get created at that high-end race car level that eventually trickle down to a car like this that I'm driving. Maybe it's in the suspension or whatever. So you take little bits and pieces of that high-end design and you find what works for the average person. And when he talked about that, he was the one who used the analogy of a Formula One race car. I said, well, what do you see if these boots were a car, what would it be? And he said it's probably an SUV. You know, it's a real multi-use, multi-purpose boot. Well, like the SUV cars. You can go off-road, you can ride on the highways, still pretty good. You can put a lot in the back. Now, that's why SUVs are so popular. Even Porsche. I just passed one right there, Porsche Cayenne. I went to Europe, maybe you saw that, and filmed at their factory and we interviewed some people. Porsche made the Cayenne, which is an SUV, because they knew that the SUV was going to basically take over the whole car industry. That's what everybody wants. They want a really multi-use, multi-purpose car. So, is that what he's created with the K2 TT Snowsurfer? I think so. I think it is the ultimate multi-use SUV boot out there. It's the boot that basically like 70% of all people who snowboard should be riding. And then you've got 30% who are like the real high-end athletes who need something more specific for what they do. And then you have the real beginners who, you know, maybe can't spend $700 on a boot. Yeah. Okay, I think that's enough. You probably got my point. I hope you enjoyed that. Please check out the videos that I'm making for the K2 TT Snowsurfer. They're posting them on the official K2 Japan Facebook and Instagram accounts. And then Gent and Stick is also retweeting them. I haven't posted the movie, but I'm posting the behind the scenes videos as I shoot them with the riders. So please enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed that episode of Carmentary. Quite passionate about snowboard design and all products that relate to snowboarding and being in the mountains. Just because I've kind of been doing it so long, and I'm not an expert by any means, but just from having, you know, over 30 years of experience, I think I can give a fairly decent opinion on these things. All right, until next time, enjoy your day today. I hope you get out there and get some turns. Remember, drive safe. It's a dangerous world out there. You might want to get an SUV.
This is the channel you need, so subscribe and follow Carmentary.